I'm James Siegel. As mentioned, I'm on the board of directors of the Giving Spirit, and we have with us today three really special people who are going to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about them. And of course, Tom Bagamani at the back, our founder. Tom, everybody wave. Okay, that's enough. Ignore him the rest of the day. What I'm going to have you guys do is, these folks who I've known in different ways, shapes, and forms of my life over the last 10 years, have come to sort of give me a real firsthand experience of what it's like to live and be homeless in Los Angeles. So I'm actually not going to introduce them specifically. I'm going to have each of them talk a little bit about their story and how they got to be where they are today. And it's going to really sort of shock and surprise you folks because not all of us really get a chance to talk with folks who we're interacting with every day in our lives who've gone through this experience. I want it to be interactive, so we're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes just with each of these individuals talking about their life story. I've got 2 or 3 questions after that to ask them, and then I want to open it up to a conversation. I want us to have, an interactive dialogue about, what their experience was like. So first questions first. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right, excellent. Do I look good?
No.
No. All right, thanks. All right. Thanks. Joyce is like, actually, your hair's sticking up. Maybe you could eat a little less carbs. I don't know. All right, so why don't you? We'll just go down the line. Anthony.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony. I'm very glad to be here this morning and speak to you, healthy and strong. My story began back in '95. After being years on the street, about 4 or 5 years on the street, I finally got help. What made me go to the street was I had parents that were addicted to drugs and basically beat me up every day of my life growing up. I tried to reach out to elementary school teachers, and they basically told my family what I had said, and so I got beaten up more for it. After years of abuse with my showers consisted of a water hose outside in the backyard every morning at 4 a.m. And I wasn't allowed to use hot and cold water. That was my shower. And basically my father and mother just kept beating me every day. And one day I just decided I didn't want to take it anymore, and I ran away. I ran to the streets of downtown Los Angeles, which I thought, someone would save me. And little did I know, I was running into something much worse. And I slept in cardboard boxes. I slept underneath the freeway. I begged for money for many, many, many years. I had no shoes. I had no sweater. I was cold. I was hungry. And I panhandled for food for many, many years. One day I just couldn't take it anymore. I picked up a payphone and I called the operator and I cried to the operator and I said, please help me. I don't know what to do. I have no family. I have nowhere to go. They connected me with the homeless shelter. The homeless shelter picked me up that same day. I went to the shelter. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I seen all these people there that I didn't know. I worked my program. I stood in the shelter for 5 years. I turned my life around. I got my first job in the shelter, working in the kitchen. From there, I went out to Starbucks, became an assistant manager at Starbucks. From there, I went to Paramount Pictures and became a set decorator, joining the IATSE Local 44 Union. Today, I have turned my life around. I have never been homeless, and it's all because of people who just cared in the street that didn't know me. People who gave, and kindly people that have kind hearts who just gave and believed in a boy who had nothing. People would look at me and pass me by on the street and wouldn't help me, and I didn't get it, I didn't understand. But there was also that one person who did have a kind heart and said, do you need a blanket? Do you need shoes? Do you need something to eat? And it's because of people that have that kind of heart that I was able to survive. And seeing all these people here today with these kind hearts and loving hearts, you're really, really making a difference. You're really helping to save that one boy out there like me. And I thank you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Kyle. Tell us your story.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kyle. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to be here. I was homeless for about 2 years from when I was 15 through 17 years of age. I lived in the streets of LA and Orange County. I was first removed from my home when I was 9 years old. I had multiple stab wounds. My mom was just a little angry with me. And so I was hospitalized and then became a ward of the court at age 9. If you know anything about the system, basically if you're not in the system by the time before you're 6, you're basically washed up and your life is over, because no one's interested in adopting or providing foster care to a kid who's more than 6 years old, because you already have all this baggage and they know that you have this baggage, and who wants to deal with a really angry, obnoxious kid at that point. And so I spent my time in the system like a lot of kids do, rotating in and out of emergency shelter homes, group homes, temporary foster homes, and became angrier and angrier through that whole process until one day I just said, you know what, I'm done. And I ran away, and I thought, it doesn't matter anymore, nothing matters anymore, and I ended up on the streets, doing whatever I needed to do to beg, borrow, steal, and do what I needed to do to eat and to stay warm and to try and get by and make it through each day. Yeah, and the people that helped me, and I had people that were willing to give me food or buy me a meal or give me a blanket or shoes and things like that. The thing is that, you know, I feel really badly because I was a very angry and very sullen person at the time, and so I never expressed any gratitude. And all these people who took the time to smile, who took the time to take interest in me and do something for me, I responded in a very obnoxious way, and these people will never know how much what they did meant to me, and how they helped me, so that when I was finally at a point where I woke up one morning and realized that I was strung out, and that if I didn't do something, I was going to die. And then I picked up the phone and called someone who I had met through actually a church outreach ministry, and said, yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't want to die. And so that was my journey. And the really amazing thing for me is that all of this is not because of anything that I've done, but because of all these people, because of people like you willing to take the time to reach out and show that you care. I'm a high school dropout and was a homeless teen, and now I have a graduate degree, and I managed to, after setting an attendance record at a community college, finally made it into, yeah, I know. Finally made it into university and then into graduate school, and I have a reasonably successful career, and I'm happily married and expecting our first children, twins, this coming June. Thank you. It's a long time coming, let me tell you. So, and that's my story. And so thank you all for taking time to be here and to listen and to care.
Wow, thanks, Kyle. All right, Ezzy, you're up. Please tell us your story.
I wanted to die. I had, after 8 years of military, I was okay, but then I lost 2 sons, I lost my mother. A lot of people that was close to me a lot of things was just happening. And I got to a very, very low point in my life. And it's, it's still a struggle trying to deal with that. And so one day, I just decided, you know what, it's checkout time. So I was in West Hollywood, and I was like, it was like the Last Supper, and I was gonna get a meal, and I had made my mind up until this group showed up, and it was all about a backpack. Ain't that something? A backpack saved my life. And you know, I got the backpack. I was just gonna walk on off, and okay, another meal, and someone said, "Hey, ain't you gonna look in it? Check it out." So I opened it up, and there it was right there. It wasn't the material things that I saw in the backpack. It's like, once you homeless and you used to getting little, stuff people throw away, and they, take this and take that. But what I saw was love, hope. Cause it took a lot. I put myself in that situation. I said, I had to really care about somebody to do this. That saved my life right there. That saved my life. And every time I think about that, it always go to the backpack. So I'm grateful now, just that right there. I guess it wasn't time for me to check out. It was time for me to give back. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I learned that, everybody got a purpose in life. Sometimes you just got to find your spot, find out what it is where you're supposed to, work and get to work. So I can't even describe how great I feel about me now, but thanks to that experience right there. And it's so much I could say, it's just, just mere simple words won't even do it justice, So at the same time, I was struggling. I was in college trying to went from a 3.8 to a 1 point something because I was homeless, and presentations, and I couldn't even focus on anything no more because I had to make sure I'm somewhere safe, sleeping in a park, while at the same time you got gunfire going on. There's a lot of negative stuff going on. And so, I'm thankful that I survived, that I made it through all. I don't know how, but, I wound up getting a degree, and being able to move on with my life. And I'm much more happier with myself now. I'm not homeless. I have a place to stay. I can go home and eat now, sleep, get some think, and stuff like that. So I'm more, I was like 2 feet below the surface about myself. But now I'm up there. I feel great because of that one experience. And maybe it ought to be a show called The Backpack.
Well, Ezzy, thank you. So, as you've heard, there's been a lot of life lived at this table, at least on this side of the table, and I gotta say thank you so much for sharing what is clearly a really sort of emotional and heartfelt story. So one of the things that has occurred in my experience interacting with homeless folks and having this moment is there's a person you meet on the street who's ready, and then there's a person you meet on the street who's not ready. Right. And Ezzy and I have been out in the streets and given before, and he kind of schooled me a little in one situation where we met a lady, and she was like, thanks, leave that there. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's your story and all that? And she's like, I don't want to deal with you. And Ezzy connected with her right away, and he's like, I get it, you're just not ready. And she's like, yeah, I'm not ready. So I would like the 3 of you to talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what does that mean when you're out there and you're ready to sort of deal with the world around you, and when you're not, and why some people want to be out there and want to be outside of it all? So tell about your reflections on that.
For me, I was a child on the street, so I was always ready. It was just someone giving me that chance. Someone saying, come here, child, come here, let me help you, let me help this boy. And for those that I see who are not ready, it's because they've been so hurt and battered by the world. They don't know who to trust. I mean, I can go on with stories when I first got out, I trusted these fellas. They said, come with us. I went with them, and bad things happened. And so therefore, I never went with anyone again. So when I hear someone say they're not ready, it's because they can be robbed, anything. And sometimes their trust and their hope is just gone.
It's not just a matter of providing food, shelter, and clothing. There's something else going on, and you have to be in a place where you're ready to deal with the issues that you have. I obviously just had a few issues to work through, and for me, it was just getting past the anger, getting past the frustration, getting past the hopelessness, and being willing to accept help. Up to then, as I mentioned before, anytime anyone tried to help me, it was this combination of anger and resentment, because who do you think you are, trying to come in and tell me what's wrong with my life, kind of thing. And so you just have to get to a point where you know that someone is there when you are ready.
And there's 3 seats up front, by the way, if anybody who's standing wants to sit, or you can come to the front. Apparently, my son wants to sit.
Well, that particular experience, and it's all about being real with yourself. You could take a person. I met when I was in school. We went out doing a survey downtown Skid Row, and we was talking to people that was in the homeless, and a question was asked: if you had $100,000 right now, would that help you? And the person said, I wouldn't take it. And I say, why? Because I'll kill myself. The person knew that they was addicted on drugs and stuff, and they knew if they take that money, and they don't want to die, but they won't help. People want to help them, but it's all about being real with yourself. Particular lady that we was talking about, she just said she wasn't ready because she knew whatever, she just wasn't ready to do the right thing. She wanted help, but wasn't ready to do the right thing. It would just still be a revolving door. I'm gonna waste everybody else's time and go do this and wind up right back here where I'm at. And she done that before, and maybe you get to the point to where you're tired, you won't help, but help me want it. So that's how I felt she was going through, So you have that a lot. A lot of times, people just, when you're in that situation, you got to be real with yourself. You can't play games with yourself.
And there's no way of knowing when someone or if someone will ever be ready.
Right.
So let's open it up a little. I'm sure some of you have questions, and this is really a very open forum. Obviously, keep in mind we've got some kids in the room, but other than that, please, ask whatever you want to ask. These folks have, committed to be very transparent about their experience and what they think. So, any questions? Yes, Noah?
How did the homeless get sick and to die on the street?
Yeah. So we can't. So did you guys see were there people that were sick and
yeah.
dying on the street?
Yeah, I seen a guy, he drank himself to death, depressed, feeling hopeless, and I knew him. Well, we were cool, and one morning they found him in the alleyway. He slept dead. He drunk himself to death. A lot of people. That 4-letter word, hope, is very, very powerful. When a person get to a point in their life and, just don't see that hope, you wonder, well, why am I here? What purpose am I serving? And you just say, pfft. And so people it's easier it's tough. That's a tough environment, homelessness.
Mike?
Twice a year, a lot of people come together and do this, but what about the rest of the year? What can we do, whether we see somebody on a corner panhandling or somebody approaches us? How should we handle that?
It's just being kind.
Okay.
When you see someone, and even if they're using the money for buying a beer or whatnot, I mean, just to beg, that's gotta do a lot to someone. And even if you don't think they're using it for the right reason, just imagine what they're going through just standing there to beg. So just be kind, just have a kind heart.
There's lots of clinics like for healthcare or legal services and things like that that are aimed at people with low income or low income, but a lot of times there are places where it's hard for folks who need them to get to them or know about them. What do you think? How to bridge that gap?
For me, there was no information for me. I wasn't told you can go here to be safe. I wasn't told there's a shelter. I didn't know what a shelter was. I was a child. I was 12 years old in the street. And being in the street for 5-6 years, it took me picking up a payphone and calling 411 to finally get help. And that's how I finally got help. And so when the shelter asked me, how can we reach people? Put it on bus benches, advertise. You need help? Call this number. You need help? Give an address. I didn't see any of that when I was on the street, and the operator is the one that helped me.
So are there people, is there a lot of fake help? I mean, you talked about you went with a bunch of guys and maybe they said they were gonna help you, but, we are these, very, sometimes naive volunteers who go down and think we're making a difference and try to help out people. And are there folks that are also showing up who maybe look like they're good but are not there to do good? Does that happen? Does that happen, or is not so much?
I think sometimes in every situation you're always going to have people who take advantage, but you can't let those people deter you from what the mission is really about helping the people who really need it. And there are going to be some of those who take advantage, who will take, oh, give me extra, but you can't let that deter what the mission is really about, and that's helping to reach someone who really needs it.
You got organizations out here that they get money for receiving people mostly homeless, and it's not about the welfare of that person. It's about some places out here, they just all about their pockets. But then we be so desperate, we gonna fall into that bag. And a lot of people know what it's about, but as long as I ain't got to sleep on the street, as long as I can sleep right here for a minute. But the downside of that is when the cash register stop clicking, get out. You right back where you were.
The reality is when you're out there are more bad choices than good choices, and so you're going to be suspicious. And even the people with the best of intents are going to be treated with a little bit of suspicion.
Jonah, you have a question?
It's about the evaluation. You know how you said those people said that they were going to help you and they took you away? What happened to the
They took my shoes, they took my shirt, they took my socks, they took whatever money I had, and so therefore I didn't have anything after that. So I had to be careful who I talk to, because everyone out there is not. You have to be careful with strangers.
So you've talked a little bit about some of the people that came out of nowhere and helped you. Maybe if you could each sort of talk about one experience of whether it was somebody you remember or don't remember, but just a moment that gave you that hope.
For me, when I finally knew I'm gonna make it, I finally had that feeling, this is it. I'm never gonna be homeless again. I was standing on top of the Empire State Building in New York. And how I got there, I was in the shelter back in Hollywood, and in '95, Hillary Clinton had came to the shelter. Back then, Bill Clinton was president, and they had asked for their most successful turnaround story, and I was chosen by the shelter. They flew me to New York City to be part of this homeless march that took place, marched down Times Square. Little did I know, my picture was up at the top of the building. So they called me up there, and I gave a speech written by Bill Clinton. After that, I was doing interviews on TV shows, and then I went to the Empire State Building, and I stood there and I looked out over the city. I had this feeling in me that said, no more. I'm not gonna hurt no more as I was hurting in the street. I'm not gonna be homeless no more. And because of these people that were strangers, not my family, who believed in me, helped me, clothed me, took me in, fed me, gave me a new life, my life changed, and it's never gone back that way. And I'm so blessed and grateful.
I think for me, it would have to be one of my foster parents. I was 12 the first time I ever remember being hugged, and it was my foster mom. And they were just so welcoming, so giving. And I remember when I left, because I called my social worker and said, these are terrible people, because I just didn't know how to cope with them. I remember how heartbroken she and my foster parents were. They were sitting there at the door crying, and I said, well, bye. And their response to me, and the last thing I ever said to them was, bye. And they looked at me and they said, really, that's all you have to say to me? And it's a really messed up story, but it's something that I remember that because I have a lot to be grateful for, and there's so many people that did things for me, including my foster parents, who will never know. And so that's what drives me now in trying to give back.
I take from my experience, a lot of anger, pain, and, drove me there, and the moment that I was in. But when I came out of it, when I got on surface again, I'll say, I feel good about giving back. And the thing that I learned from this is, sometimes you can be in the midst of your own storm. But if you can help somebody during your storm, you find your power, you find your strength. So that's my strength. As far as I'm concerned, I'm never going back to that homeless thing anymore. And from my perspective, that door is closed. So, as long as I can give back, that's my strength. That helps me.
So aside from my kids, do we have some more questions for the panel? Yeah, Jane?
Just a comment. Your children have asked questions that have been very important. And the answers that they've gotten have been very appropriate. And thank you for that. What I'm hearing is there's several things. 2 phone calls and a backpack were salvation. And I thought in today's world of social media where people are so caught up on their devices, it's nice to know that the telephone is still, that can be a lifeline for people, and the impact that was life-changing. Very moved by your stories. Each story has come out of a lot of pain, which as a mother, as a grandmother, makes me so sad to think that a child wouldn't be hugged or would remember that first time that came at age 12, or a child that's so mistreated that, sorry for my emotional response, but it's lovely to know that out of pain, such wonderful stories and turnaround of lives have come. It just breaks my heart that it takes that reaching those depths of despair to find that little seed of hope that makes you make that phone call or open up your heart. Thank you so much for sharing. And certainly to Tom and the organization which started here at BBC. It's something that we all who come here on a regular basis and have been active with this church and really appreciate see the codes planted by an organization and not by the changes. Events for people who are here, so thank you so much.
So Gabriel, you've been raising your hand politely. Do you have a question? Do you have that's Gabe. What's your question, Gabe?
How did you get onto the street? My dad didn't get onto the street.
No, I know, it's to them.
Are you asking those guys?
Yes.
Oh.
Which guy are you asking?
You're asking any of the guys.
Well, I got on the streets because mostly a lot of it was pride can put you on the street. You know, you got too much pride. Pride can like work for you sometime, and it can work against you. So use it the wrong way, you can wind up like I did. And it gets worse when you're on the street and you still got pride. So
it wasn't a slippery slope, it was just suddenly you're out on the street, or was it gradual where you're sleeping on people's couches or going month to month in an apartment and you can't make the rent, or how does it literally get to a point where you're sleeping on the street?
For me, I just ran away one day. I just left. I didn't want to be home no more. I didn't want to get beat up anymore, so I just left. But I didn't know the streets were dangerous.
And that first night on the street?
The very first night, my shoes were taken.
Did you sleep, what, in a park or on a bench?
I slept on a bus bench, and then a group of fellas said, come with us. We have somewhere that's safe. And it ended up being an abandoned building, and it was just horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
How about you, Kyle? What was that first night like?
I left because I didn't care anymore, because I didn't think that, because no one loved me, and I didn't think I mattered. And that first night I was stupid and slept under a freeway bridge, which turns out not always the safest place to go, as the other guys up here know. And was not a good night, and learned very quickly that you only sleep in very public areas during the day, and you go from there.
I rode the bus, I just got on the bus, the longest line, and I'll just ride from one end to the other, you know, until I got kicked off, you know, and then I'll just wander around trying to find somewhere safe. And, you know, I was, at that point in time, Los Angeles, I didn't know the city because I'm from down south, Alabama. And I was I felt like I was in a foreign country trying to find somewhere, you know, but it was tough, but I made it work some kind of way.
For me, after a while, the safest place to sleep towards the end was at the church. I would find a church and I would sleep in front of their doors because I knew I was safe. And that's towards the end, I started finding churches at night where I would just put myself in front of their doors and sleep in front of their doors. Because if I knew that if anything happened to me, at least God was with me.
Any more questions? John in the back?
What kind of emotional, stressful relief did you guys feel when you guys realized you made it?
It's very emotional. Sometimes I don't believe it. Sometimes I think, how did I survive? And it's because of people like you guys that are so kind to just give out of, not even knowing who you're going to give to or knowing who's that person that you're reaching out to. So when I think about me and my situation, it's really overwhelming. And sometimes, I still cry today about it because the things I've seen and the things I went through, I would think that I would be on drugs or dead. And I've seen so many people that's happened to of what I've gone through. And I just thank God that people had such a kind heart to rescue me.
It was emotional to me because my daughter, she didn't know I was homeless. And I didn't want nobody to know. She was calling me almost every night, "Daddy, you all right?" But she hear all this noise. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just sitting outside." "Well, what's all that now?" "I'm just sitting outside." But so just the emotional part to me was her not knowing what I'm going through and not being able to tell her, you know, and just being in that situation. So that
I end up just feeling grateful when I think about it, because the reality is that most of the kids I grew up with that I knew on the streets and in the system are probably dead now. And I have no idea why I survived, and it's just pure miracle from my point of view.
All right, so we got time for 2 more questions, so we're gonna do Vance and this lady. So Vance first.
How do you start to turn around when you're in a bad place? You know, not necessarily just getting off the streets, but life continues to go on. And what do you do when you're down, and how do you change your mode of thinking so you don't continue to spiral down?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars in therapy. I don't know how to explain it. For me, it just came from within, just the realization I need help and I can't go back anymore, and faith in something beyond yourself.
for me, you know, I had to want it from deep inside. I had to want to change this, and you know, it's just not like superficial little I want to. It came from deep inside, but then it took something to motivate that want for me. And I'm just saying, but if you want it, you could change it. If you want it, it will change. I learned that, you know, and I didn't see no way out. But once I felt when I wanted to change, it changed, and here I am with that right now. So,
Thank you.
For me, when I finally realized, when I grasped that my life was turning around and I was not going to be homeless anymore, now it was time to deal with all the emotional stuff, because now I was working, I was making money, I was able to be independent, but now you have to deal with everything that's happened to you, everything inside. So for me, I just took advantage of every group meeting that I could get to. I would go to group sessions and talk about it just like I'm talking now, and I felt like that for me was my therapy.
Thank you.
I see some of the same people every day as I take my kids to school with their tents and clearly homeless. Is there one best way to like approach and ask what's needed for help? Because occasionally when I've offered something, some food or something, it's, you know, different people have different responses to that. Some people are very angry and I feel like I've done the wrong thing. And is there one good way to offer help when you kind of see the same people over and over?
well, a lot of times, you know, most of the people that I experienced when I was on the street, a lot of people got dual diagnoses. You know, they mentally ill and they addicted to some substance. And a lot of people just, you know, mentally, they're not even aware of what. So a lot of times I see people, I woke up with, I don't know who or what, I just see a box of something, nobody just walked up and said, huh, they just put it down there and just left it up to me, how I wanted to do it.
Just with some supplies and things that they assume you would need?
Right, and mostly resources is one thing, you know, like some type of information, maybe if you go here or something like that, but just leave it, just put it there and leave it, and let's let it be up to them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, well, I want to, first of all, thank you all for being here and for being part of this organization, being part of today, and making a difference. I want to thank these 3 very special people for really just being so transparent and sharing an amazing life story, and for just giving us all your love. So thank you.
Thank you.